You are listening to Mindshock True Crime. This is your host, Percy McGuire, and this is the Jonbenet Ramsey series, episode 21, Naked Barbies. So these Barbie dolls might be one of the most overlooked aspects of the case, and there's actually quite a few aspects regarding other types of dolls. And I just haven't seen it explored in here in typical Mindshock fashion, where we are exhaustive and comprehensive in logically analyzing every aspect of every case in an attempt to find the truth. Unlike anyone else out there, definitely not in the mainstream, we're going to be looking at this complete deep dive into the Barbie issues and all of the weird goings on in Boulder, Colorado, and Colorado as a whole, tying into this case. This is one of these cases where it really shouldn't be unsolved unless there's some kind of funny business from above, which in the post-Epstein era, it's kind of surprising there's still coincidence theorists around hallucinating there's zero chance there was any type of foul play at some kind of Illuminati Christmas party with satanic ritual abuse. If you haven't checked out the 9.5 hours of documentation, plus several more hours on the McMartin preschool, including all of the discovered tunnels that I went over here on Mindshock, check that out. Coincidence theorist trigger warning on those. Just mountains and mountains of that never-ending evidence. So, in this case, though, the reason it's unsolved, there seems to be quite a few variables causing this to be unsolved. If you've checked out all the previous episodes, you'd be familiar with the Judge Long confessions, which are very interesting, also mentioning Moscow, Idaho, and the satanic ritual abuse corridor in the West, in the Western United States. All very curious. So we'll be going over all that and more. I know a lot of Mindshock listeners, maybe not a lot, a few, have told me they actually only listen to Mindshock for the Jonbenet Ramsey case, so apologies for how long it's been between episodes in the series, but I really do like to have all of the available information to make sure it is exhaustive and comprehensive, unlike anything else out there. If you want to help support the podcast, help keep up awareness in unsolved cases, missing persons cases, wrongful convictions, and more, you can donate to our PayPal. Check the link in the description. Make sure you're subscribed, like, and share, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comments section. Unless, of course, you're with us here live, then drop them in the live chat. So, first things first, for the people who don't know what I'm talking about here, these aren't just random dolls. These were left or discovered on the Jonbenet Ramsey, on the Ramsey home lawn, on the lawn of their home. Now, what is strange is the wide range of dates given. So, supposedly, some people are saying it was right after the murder. But other documentation is saying it was 1 to 2 years after. And so, let's get into all of this and the history of all of this, because there's a lot of funny business going on. Let's go to a Candy Rose first. CandyRose.com, possibly one of the biggest archives in the case and everything that has to do with the case. So, there was one individual known as the Prophet Michael McElroy. And I do not believe we've gone over him. I don't know. We've gone over so many suspects. I mean, there was over 100 suspects, and we've gone over just about all of them. But I don't think we actually went over McElroy. So, apparently, January 22nd, 2002, the Ramsey family website displayed the naked Barbies found on the Ramsey law in 1997. That is what is on the screen right now. So in 1996, now supposedly the police have cleared this individual. Now, I know there's a lot of authority-worshipping cultist bootlickers out there that hallucinate once the police have so-called cleared somebody. That means they're innocent. I mean, the level of gopher in the times. I mean, let's bring up some receipts here. Let's bring up some receipts because I can't just let that go. This is Mindshock. Like, we gotta be accurate here. Because there's gophs that actually hallucinate. If you're arrested, you're guilty. If you're cleared, you're innocent. And that there's no innocent people in prison. I mean, just the level of gophery from the authority-worshipping cultists is just, it's insane. I mean, what do the actual numbers show? So this is the national homicide clearance rate. And you could see from the 60s, which had a close to 90% clearance rate. Now, that doesn't mean they got the right guy, obviously. But also, obviously, they're not getting the wrong guy 100% of the time. Now, look at this plummet to 2020. I mean, there's more technology and surveillance today than ever before. And there's also plenty of frame-ups. I mean, look at all the people getting railroaded today for crimes that ended just to close the case. I mean, cops' egos are stratospheric, all-time highs. So they're still putting away innocent people for crimes they didn't commit just to close cases. That's always been the case, obviously, throughout history. But with all of this technology, they can't even get anybody. They don't even bother railroading enough people. I mean, this is crazy. So to all the gophs out there that think McElroy couldn't have been involved because he was cleared. Now again, for the Dunning-Kruger gophs, if there's more than one individual involved here, and if it was being live streamed on the dark web, like some people allege that this crime was live streamed on the dark web and possibly other satanic ritual abuse like at the Christmas party. So certain individuals could have been involved without being present on location. Now that I've gotten out of the way, I can't even believe I have to go over that. Just, it's tough. It's tough. So, yes, here's the official story. Christmas Day, December 25th, 96, McElroy was visiting family in Denver, Colorado when Jonbenet was killed. So he was supposedly in Denver. The Boulder Police Department called McElroy's mother to ask questions about him on January 19th, 1998. Look how long it took him to get to him. I mean, just the level of police incompetence here. I mean, it's wild. So supposedly he passed an FBI polygraph. But, yeah. Again, not necessarily meaning he's innocent. And he, if you're a sociopath, you're much more likely to pass that. So, January 20th, 98, BPD took McElroy's stun gun and 100 pages of old handwritten short stories. McElroy stated in his internet email that cops never examined his computer. You know what's crazy? So, if you're a suspect, guilty or innocent, would you be emailing your friends that the police never actually examined your computer? So he stated in his internet email that cops never examined his computer. So, I mean, perhaps that might point to this guy not being very bright. McElroy followed the cops to the police station, got palm printed and saliva swab. On the 22nd of January 98, they took McElroy. So McElroy happens to have a stun gun, hiking boots, black Sharpie marker, and a rope in his closet. They also took fingerprints from his dining room table. They wanted more handwriting samples from McElroy, old and new. They took McElroy to Naked Edge Cutlery. What? So it says here, January 22nd, 98, Boulder Police Department took McElroy to Naked Edge Cutlery, buys $51 stun gun with a Boulder Police Department MasterCard. And they took McElroy to the shoe store for $60 Nike hiking boots with Boulder Police Department MasterCard. And they gave McElroy $2 cash for his Sharpie and told him to schedule a polygraph. Now, what? So here's where it gets really crazy. So Dot's Diner in Boulder allowed McElroy to hang a naked Barbie mobile from the ceiling. See, that's pretty weird. That's pretty weird. What kind of diner would allow that? So, McElroy's website had a self-authored essay called Barbie Doll, the Ultimate Expletive, which would be the F expletive. So he's writing essays about Barbie dolls and the ultimate expletive. And these Barbie dolls are found on the Ramsey lawn, and McElroy hung a naked Barbie mobile in Dot's Diner. That's a lot of coincidences there. I mean, how many grown men are obsessed with not just Barbies, but naked Barbies? I mean, that's kind of weird. Who finds that kind of weird? I mean, yeah. Jeff U1P in the chat says the bondage looks like the Japanese bondage Jeffrey Epstein did. It's in the Epstein files. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And I think we went over this. Ghislaine Maxwell had the same lawyer as John Ramsey. And yeah, out of all the law firms, yeah, it's weird. Definitely weird. We'll be getting to a lot more weird stuff here. So what's weird? I mean, there's a lot of weird things. Jeff Shapiro, the Globe reporter, also found a naked Barbie on the Ramsey lawn summer of '98. So apparently there's a few different ones. Because the Ramsey website said it was found in '97. McElroy's website also had a whole bunch of different hearts, and there was a red heart drawn on Jonbenet's left hand. There was also a girl's pink Barbie doll nightgown found besides Jonbenet Ramsey's body. We'll be getting into all that later. Also, yeah, apparently one of the neighbors also found these Barbies in '97, the neighbor. And then it also says the reporter found some in '98. There were some internet postings that said McElroy's girlfriend collected Barbies and teddy bears. How does a guy like this even have a girlfriend? The 90s were weird. So, May 2000, Steve Thomas stated that McElroy took a poly administered by the FBI and was cleared. Apparently, Michael Tracy had an extremely large file on McElroy. So here is McElroy's actual email from January 2nd, 98. So I'll put it on the screen in a second and then I'll read it. So everybody can kind of decide for themselves what this looks like. Does this look like an innocent individual? Does this look like an individual possibly connected with other individuals involved in this? And possibly not directly involved himself. But why would anybody leave these on the Ramsey lawn? It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Who thinks this is not weird? I mean... One second here. So this was shared apparently by somebody who knows him. Okay. So let's go through this email. Hey, J and D. Sorry, I don't have a joke for you, but here's a pretty interesting message I had forwarded to me. I know the guy who wrote it. In Boulder, we called him Prophet. I guess he used to look like Jesus. He's basically a freak, although very intelligent and seemed to be a pretty good guy whenever I talked to him. He is the kind of guy who would arouse suspicion, though, especially in a society that thinks criminals are all a certain type. Michael McElroy, email January 20th, 98. I am being investigated for the murder of Jonbenet Ramsey. Seriously, a week ago, 3 friends contacted me independently with a heads-up warning that 2 Boulder police detectives had come to the offices of Redacted asking about me. This seemed strange because I hadn't lived in Boulder for almost 6 months and had no ties with the Redacted. But the odd fact soon retreated to the back of my mind until this evening, Tuesday, January 20th. At about 5 p.m., there was a knock on the door. 2 Boulder detectives flashed their badges in my face. I invited them in, offered them a seat on the futon, asked them if they might like a Coke, getting more and more freaked out as I realized the situation. We're here investigating the Jonbenet Ramsey murder of Christmas 96. You had a high profile while living in Boulder, and due to some of the more explicit items on your website, we would like to ask you a few questions. I signed a consent to search form, and while one grilled me, his partner stated methodically examining every item in the apartment. Questions ranged from, did you kill Jonbenet Ramsey? Do you know how to tie a noose? To, did you like Princess Di? I must admit that being quizzed by the Popo for 2 hours, he wrote police, I just summarized it, for 2 hours is a unique experience. You want to give the right answers, but at the same time, you don't want to appear too helpful or knowledgeable. It's kind of weird. He's giving his thoughts on how to talk to the police. Why did he sign a consent to search form? I was asked about my relationship with the following people, A, B, C, D. They did not seem too interested in following up on these people, but in case they do, this was your heads-up warning. The searching officer decided he wanted to take my stun gun. How many people randomly have a stun gun, though? And was it the exact same model that was potentially used on Jonbenet Ramsey? And about 100 pages of old handwritten, ultra-violent short stories back to the stations for document. And how many people have 100 pages of random ultra-violent short stories in their home that they wrote. I mean, it's kind of weird because this guy's kind of describing it all. Yes, none ya biz. Those are the actual photos of the naked bound Barbies found on the lawn, according to the Ramsey website. So that's how they were tied. So yeah, there was more than one, and apparently there could have been multiple instances. Because there's 2 references to them being found, one in 97 and one in 98 by different people. But yeah, it's kind of hard to find exact information on that, the exact dates they were found. At no time was my computer data examined. They needed me to follow them back to the Boulder station for palm print. That's kind of weird, though. Why is he stating in an email that they didn't check his computer? Now, if you're innocent, I mean, I guess if you're innocent, you might say that. If you're guilty, would you say that? Unless you're making fun of them if you are guilty. Or if you're just completely insane, guilty or not, I guess you might say that. They needed me to follow them back to the Boulder station for palm prints and a saliva swab. When it was over, they gave me all my stuff back and I got their business cards. We thanked each other for being so professional and I left. Total time, a little over 3 hours. I am a suspect in an internationally reported sex murder case. Makes me feel warm all over. That's an interesting what? That's weird. Okay, so they took his stun gun and boots and black Sharpie and rope, so that's why they compensated him? The Boulder Police Department just bought me a new stun gun. Seriously. The same 2 detectives. I mean, that's actually kind of courteous. How often do police buy potential suspects or persons of interest the items that they seized for evidence collection? Is that common? So the same 2 detectives showed up at my door a little before 5 p.m. tonight, Thursday, January 2nd, and said their supervisor had a few more concerns after the initial interview. They wanted to, 1, take my stun gun, 2, my hiking boots, 3, my black Sharpie marker, 4, a length of rope from my closet for further examination. Okay, whatever you want. Then one of the officers pulls out a Boulder Police Department MasterCard and says they want to replace these items for me and asks if I would like to go to the mall. Okay, whatever you want. The taller officer puts on latex gloves and gathers my possessions together as the other guy fingerprints me on my own dining room table. He conveniently brought the kit with him. This seemed odd as they had palm printed me only 2 days ago, but I guess they might be different procedures. After I wash my hands off, they want to collect handwriting samples. I already gave them about 100 pages of my writing spanning a period of 10 years or so, but they want more. First, I have to copy a group of about 15 random words 3 or 4 times using a felt tip pen, mind you. Easy. Then I am given a blank pad of paper and one detective begins to read a business letter to me, and I am supposed to copy it all down. Well, it took me about 6 pages of notebook paper to copy the whole thing, so my hand was just about dead. The letter had to do with a foreign company that had kidnapped somebody's kids and was stating their demands. Very odd stuff. I guess they were happy, though, because next they took me shopping. I followed them to a nearby mall, and we went to Naked Edge Cutlery, where they bought me a brand new $51 stun gun with Boulder Police Department MasterCard. So a cutlery store has stun guns. Next stop was a shoe store where I got to pick out a pair of $60 Nike hiking boots to replace the expletive ones they were confiscating. I was asked if I wanted them to buy me a new Sharpie, and when I said no, $2 cash was shoved into my hand. It was Christmas all over again. Then they let me go home to play with my new toys. It's kind of a weird email, right? The next step was to schedule a polygraph test, oh boy, before I leave for the coast in late April. One of the detectives is going to send me his email address so I can add him to the redacted update list. He likes my site. He even refers to the specific paragraphs that I'd forgot I wrote. This whole experience is teaching me that Boulder knows how to treat its suspects. I would recommend that everyone find a rich, polite community and become a suspect in one of their unsolved cases. New shoes, new shoes. Total time 1.5 hours. P.S. They called my mother at home yesterday and asked her general questions like where was your son during Christmas 96, and then asked to speak to my sister. My mom said no, you can't talk to her, and that was that. They did not mention this phone call to me tonight. Mom told me about it. Sneaky bastards. So, that is an email from McElroy himself. Jeff U1P in the chat says, why worry how you come across when talking to the police? That's sus. This mess is what you get if you talk without your lawyer present. They can easily frame him even like this. Yeah, they could. But, I mean, how coincidental is it? He's got an obsession with Barbies. He writes about Barbies. He's got a website with Barbies. He even hangs Barbies in random diners. A Barbie mobile. A naked Barbie mobile. And then these naked bound Barbies are found on the Ramsey lawn. And he personally owns a stun... How many people do you know who personally owned a stun gun in the late 90s? How many people do you know that own a stun gun now? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is pretty weird. This is pretty weird. Very weird. So his email was profit@bigfoot.com, and he posted this message in news groups. Let's go over a couple more things here. I mean, this is really weird. I mean, this is definitely one of the weirdest cases ever, with some of the weirdest suspects, persons of interest, etc. I mean, that whole area appears to be some kind of cesspool for deviants of all kinds. So apparently he posted this on alt.sex.tasteless. Where can I get images involving sexual activity and human tissue damage? I need blood. It turns me on mightily. He posted that May 26, 98. It's kind of a weird thing to post publicly. Okay. Now here's an article from the Inquirer, and one of their reporters, Shapiro, apparently found naked Barbies, but there may have been more than one found. So, September 8th, 98, bizarre twist, naked and bound Barbie doll found at the Ramseys. And you could notice here that there's more than one doll, right? So you have, there's at least two. Because look at how they're bound and wrapped differently. So there's at least two. And we don't know if these are different angles or if some of them are bound the same way and there's more than one. It looks like there's two. The bottom three images on the screen here are from one and the top two images are from the other one. That's what it looks like. So, here's this article. August 21st, 97. A naked, bound, and gagged Barbie doll was found on the front lawn of the Boulder, Colorado home where Jonbenet Ramsey was murdered. It led cops on a bizarre investigation of Colorado University student Mike McElroy, who lived near the Ramsey family. And there we have Colorado University. McElroy, 24, a computer science major who graduated last year, has a website that features a story about violent sex with a Barbie doll. The site also includes photos of nude women bound with rope, poems dedicated to serial killers. How many people do you know have poems dedicated to serial killers? Stories of rape, torture, and murder, including a tale where the victim is beaten over the head and strangled, as was Jonbenet. In January 98, Detective Michael Everett questioned McElroy at his Denver apartment. I was totally cooperative, McElroy told the Inquirer. I know I have this weird website, but I'm not a murderer. And one has to wonder, is he on the dark web? And if this crime was live streamed, or even if not live streamed, recorded and put on the dark web, did he view this? Is that the connection, even if he wasn't personally present during the murder? Because this seems like the kind of weird sicko freak that would want to be part of such online communities on the dark web. Still, Everett was shocked that McElroy owned a stun gun, which has been mentioned as a possible weapon used on Jonbenet. The weapon was confiscated and McElroy provided fingerprints, handwriting, and saliva samples. McElroy was given a lie detector test in February. Quote, I was told I passed and haven't heard back from the cops since, end quote. Cops determined McElroy was visiting family in Denver when Jonbenet was killed. McElroy's mom, Lily, said that her son is not violent, just a bit strange. The detective said Mike was one of the 300 Colorado University student characters they had looked at. So, here's the thing. When they determined he was at this family dinner, was that determination simply his mom saying, yeah, he was at the dinner, and then she did not allow them to speak to the sister? So was the mom lying and just covering for him? Even if she thought he was innocent, even if he is innocent, she wanted to provide an alibi because he didn't have one? Is that what this is? That is highly strange. That is definitely highly strange. So, apparently, Jameson, who we've gone over before, also investigated Michael McElroy extensively and stated that McElroy used the name Andy Savage, apparently based on the well-known DJ? That's pretty weird. So his website was wideawake.org. I don't know if it's still up, and I don't want to check based on what was said is on the website. I don't even want to archive that. But, yeah, that's an interesting name, Wide Awake. So the police were told about him in January, February 97, and they didn't look into him until January 98 during the interview. So apparently some of his stories also had to do with his personal need for certain medications and abuse of medications. And he described his Christmas morning in 96 as being high and his imagination going wild. So here, and one more point about the poly, the FBI poly. A lot of times they'll tell POIs that they passed when they didn't pass, just to see what they're going to do. Because if they don't have enough evidence or whatever. So, I know a lot of authority-worshipping cultist bootlickers hallucinate that everything the authority says is true and they can't make mistakes, etc. But they can obviously lie, and they should lie if it helps them get guilty parties, right? But yeah, we're not going to hallucinate that the words of humans are accurate. So here is an image. Well, I didn't put this image up yet. So let's get this image. So apparently this is the actual image, this photograph taken August 21st, 97, of one doll. And it's just randomly on the lawn there. But clearly not super close to the sidewalk, so it's clearly seems to have been left there on purpose, right? And I can't tell if that spot behind it is another doll, or if the other doll was found at a different time. But for those that were curious, it's right on the front lawn. And unfortunately, there were no security cameras overlooking the lawn at that time. But yeah, that's very curious. Very curious. I mean, this appears... I can't believe we didn't really go over McElroy before. I mean, this guy seems to, if not a suspect, possibly having some kind of knowledge. Somehow, which we wouldn't necessarily know how. So, this is an email here. Let's go over to the next email here. From the individual that found the Barbies, so not Shapiro. All these, there's the problem with, like, one of the problems with this case is there's so many conflicting stories, and it's so difficult to verify anything. Is that all by design as well? Like, do they just really not want this case solved? And all this weirdos, like, so if John Ramsey was dialed in to these, like, upper echelon Illuminati circles, I wonder, they don't want this solved, and then there's, like, weirdo freaks that maybe, if this was somehow either live streamed or uploaded a video, because there's been a long rumor that there's a video of the death, and it was on the dark web. But, yeah, and all these weirdos who maybe watched the video just insert themselves into the case, so if the authorities don't want it solved, you know, that's kind of a problem, so they gotta run interference. So, this is the story when she found the naked Barbie on the Ramsey's lawn on August 21st, 97. Hi, all. And this email is from June 22nd. There's no year here. I'm assuming it's obviously the following year, or even 2 or 3 after. Alright, let me double check that. Might be 99. I think this is June 22nd, 99. Hi all, I was the one who found the Barbie on the lawn at the house. It was a very unnerving experience to say the least. As Denver said, I was shaking in my boots as I took the pictures. I didn't even want to get close. In my opinion, I was not set up. I say this because when I travel by the seat of my pants, no schedule, agenda, anything. Jameson knew I was going to go to Boulder on my trip. She knew I was going to go camping close by, but not my time frame at all. Nor the place where I was going to camp. I had told her that I was going to camp for anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks, and would either go... Okay, this is kind of weird. So this Jameson investigator, and she's from Hickory, North Carolina. I mean, the plot really thickens. We went over Jameson. I mean, Jameson is one of the, I mean, this is weird. She just happens to be from the same town where the duct tape that was found on Jonbenet's mouth was manufactured across the other side of the country. Yeah, we went over all that before. You could check out the Jameson clip from that podcast. But yeah, I mean, it's just weird. It is so weird. So apparently, the individual who found the Barbie was speaking. It was a follower of the case who had speak to Jameson prior. And no, I'm not alleging Jameson left this Barbie doll here to be found, but that is kind of weird. Unless Jameson was framing McElroy. But then, if there were these Barbies found on more than one occasion, well, how did she know about? So McElroy. So this was found in '97, and McElroy. Yeah, McElroy was not interviewed by police since '98, but police were informed of him much earlier. And then also Dot's Diner in Boulder. Apparently, McElroy went there and hung a naked Barbie mobile from the ceiling, and they allowed him to do it. Yeah, this is what a mess here, right? What a mess. So, it's 2 days to 2 weeks. I would either go up to the house on my way up or my way down the mountains. And I believe there's another story about a neighbor, unless the neighbor is this person, or is this not the neighbor? On my way down to the mountains, I just really feel that too much of a time difference for someone to go to work. They wanted to set me up. Even when I left the campground, I wasn't sure we were going to stop by then, but when we got close to Boulder, we decided to go ahead and go by. Also, Jameson was unaware of the type of vehicle I drove. Well, here's the thing. If Jameson did leave the dolls, it wouldn't necessarily be for the specific person to find. I mean, obviously, somebody would find it at some point. It's on a very famous murder house lawn. Anyway, we went by the house, went around the block, asked a security officer if, oh, so there's a security? Wait. This neighborhood has security? So okay, so if it's not incompetent security, the people coming and going, this is weird. They asked security officer if I could take pictures, went back, got out, got yelled at by neighbors, started taking pictures, saw something on the ground, went to see what it was, and it was the Barbie. Okay, well, what if this individual was the one who left the Barbie, then started taking pictures? But she didn't give her a real name, so I'm assuming this is not for clout. And apparently she didn't write a book or go and do interviews or anything, so it's just a random email here. So maybe not. So, okay, see what it was. It was the Barbie. Freaked out, thought about picking it up, but my son persuaded me otherwise. So her son was with her also. Okay, maybe not then. Well, depending on how old he is. Took pictures of Barbie and went to find a policeman. We saw a police car going onto the CU campus, so we chased him down. Another lovely experience. My friend jumped out of the car and ran to the police. Okay, so she's with her friend and her son. So unless the three of them colluded, then perhaps they weren't the ones who placed it. Okay. My friend jumped out of the car, ran to the police car, told them about the doll. They seemed very disinterested, but said they would take care of it. Didn't ask for names or anything. We decided it was time to get the heck out of Boulder and just left. I have no idea if they retrieved the Barbie or not. When I got the photos developed, I sent copies to Jameson and she put them on her timeline. Not long afterwards, I received an email from a reporter from the Inquirer, but never was sure how he got my email address. At the time, before I knew better, my email address may have been showing up on the BNF, so that is probably where he got it, but who knows? I asked the same thing someone up there asked. Jameson's name and town had been posted many times, so why offer to pay me for the phone number? I was told it was just a lot easier if I just gave it. Anyway, my brain is rusty right now, so if I can think of anything else, I will write it later. Ruthie and I spoke about all this in Dallas, and she has some very good ideas. I just don't think I could have been set up, but then I still believe in Santa Claus too. That's all for now. Take care. What? That's kind of weird. She still this grown woman with a son still believes in Santa Claus. Okay. Anyway, so that's the story of how this one particular doll apparently was found, but there's more than one. Yeah, this is really tough. So let's continue here. So apparently McElroy's had the whole website is kind of like Barbie bondage. So I'm guessing, did they not test these Barbies for fingerprints? I mean, if only the police did their job, but but I mean, obviously he could have done it with gloves, and there could be no fingerprints, or there could be somebody else's fingerprints on it. But so there's a bondage Barbie found on the lawn on at least one occasion, if not two. McElroy has a Barbie bondage website and writes all these stories about murder and bondage and all that stuff. And he hangs naked Barbie mobiles at local diners. And his girlfriend apparently collects Barbies as well. So they're Barbie freaks. So some people were discussing that Jameson wanted to frame McElroy. Okay, who wants to get real crazy here? What is this? Hold on, I'm gonna bring up another post here. Wow, where the coincidence stacks here are insane. They're just absolutely insane. But with the sheer amount of data in this case, I do find it kind of weird that it should be solved, and the fact that it has not been solved, how does that not point to intentional obfuscation to prevent it from being solved? Because the sheer amount of data in this case, I mean, like, if you have no data, it's kind of hard to solve a case. But when you have this amount of information... So, let's look at this post here. This is really crazy here. This is February 26, 2000. Good, Bad, and Ugly. Jams tries to pin it on McElroy. When I read the Foster file, I saw that Jameson is the nickname Jams, I guess, had exchanged many emails with someone known as Braveheart or Bravefart. This was the college-age male that may have been involved in Jams' trickery with Foster. Now, here's another theory. Is someone manipulating some of these researchers, like this college-age male? Are they the true perpetrator? And they're manipulating other people to try to frame McElroy or whoever might be a good suspect here. So, did they find out about a weird guy who put naked Barbie mobiles in local diners and had a naked Barbie bondage website? And thought that that would be a good guy to frame it on? So this was a college-age male that may have been involved in Jam's trickery with Foster. Anyway, I always thought Braveheart was either J.A.R. or Shapiro. Now Braveheart is over the LHF trying to run the bus over Chris Wolf and Mike McElroy again. Chris Wolf would be the business journalist described below. McElroy would be an anarchist journalist trying to have a young anarchist female help him. What is this obsession with anarchists? McElroy's advisor at CU was none other than Bill McReynolds. What? Oh, man. What? What? So McReynolds is the Santa. A lot of people think he's highly suspect. So this is his advisor? Oh man, you cannot make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. Oh man. So he is not just the local Santa, but known to the Ramsey family here. This is the Bondage Barbie website owner. His college advisor is McReynolds, if this is accurate. If this is accurate. Jeff U1P in the chat says they should have compared the knots. The police at least. Too much unfollowed leads. This is a sweep under the rug operation for sure. I mean, this, yeah. How do you rectify all of the coincidences? And of course, there's McReynolds' wife and writing a play about, that mirrored all of these events. Well, we won't even go into all that. Check out, I did 4.5 hours on McReynolds. It's just absolutely mind-shocking. So it was also a female friend of McElroy's who supposedly had the Barbies and bears in their house. This was all from Tracy's mole, a student stripper named Amy who befriended McElroy at Tracy's urging. Tracy paid Amy $50 on several occasions so she could go to buy comic books at the store where McElroy's girlfriend worked. The comics were Tracy's big theory on SBTC. Some comic characters with those initials. In any event, I always thought the $50 never went for comic books, just my opinion. So Tracy apparently wanted more. He was digging in on McElroy and setting up CIs or whatever to inform on him. This is, I mean, it looks like some people tried to either solve this or make it look like they were trying to solve it by framing somebody. But they never really got Okay, so here's another thing. If they really did want to get the wrong guy to close the case, why not just arrest McElroy? He's a good suspect, right? They could pin it on him. They can make, most corruption is done in the crime lab by swapping labels on samples. Easy enough. Check out the Stephen Avery case. So I actually have to do a follow-up episode on that, citing all the countless examples of crime lab corruption and how labels are swapped. So they could have put this guy away, but were they afraid of what he was going to say? Is it possible the reason they couldn't frame him and they didn't even want to check his computer is that somehow someone tipped them off that he was aware of what was going on in the dark web, and he may have even seen the video of the murder, if it exists, if that theory is true? And they didn't want all that information out there, so they couldn't frame him up, unless they were also going to kill him. I mean, I suppose they could have set that up for him to get shanked in holding. Stranger things have happened, but I don't know. People kept discussing that McElroy's DNA may not have actually been tested, though. Huh. Why not? This is like one of the biggest POIs here. Why would you not test the DNA? So this is a Shapiro article here by Jeffrey Scott Shapiro, Boulder Weekly, December 2001, Ghosts of Christmas Past. The Prophet. Among the first possible suspects I studied was the Prophet. I had learned of the Prophet from an email he sent his friends about how the Boulder police came to his apartment in 97 to confiscate his high-tech boots. So not only were they hiking boots, they were also high-tech boots, which, for those that don't know, I mean, how popular were these boots? I don't think I know anybody with these boots. So apparently, yeah, high-tech, they think that it may have been Burke's high-tech boots that left this mark. Other people think it could have been an investigator. And others still think it could have been the perp or one of the perps. Anyway, apparently this guy also owned high-tech boots, a Sharpie marker, and a stun gun. 3 things possibly used in Jonbenet's murder. The CU student came under investigation after police found his internet site a series of essays about sadomasochism, which included an instructional piece about Japanese bondage and how to tie complex knots. And again, his advisor is McReynolds, the Ramsey Santa. If that's true, that's crazy. On the website known as Wide Awake, the Prophet had posted a self-authored essay called Barbie Doll, the Ultimate Expletive. His essay chronicled the sexual torture of Barbie in an extremely sadistic, vicious manner. When John Ramsey found Jonbenet, the killer had left the girl's Barbie doll nightgown beside her. Few people around town knew the Prophet, but during his college years, the manager of a local diner allowed him to hang a mobile of naked Barbie dolls from the restaurant's ceiling. As I was investigating the Prophet in the summer of 98, I found a similar doll. So this was 98? So, wait a second. So they were found back-to-back summers, 97 and 98? Because this photo is from 97. And Shapiro is saying that he found it in the summer of 98. So he found another one? So I found a similar doll in Ramsey's stuffed inside a tiny white sandal. Yeah, so this was a different occasion because the one Shapiro found was stuffed in a sandal. That's weird. I wondered if the shoe had once belonged to Jonbenet. The blonde doll had a little white rope around her neck and a red spot marked on her gown by the vaginal area. I immediately called the police, who collected the item into evidence. In his book, Mindhunter, former FBI profiler John Douglas, who was employed by the Ramseys to profile the killer, described men who torture Barbie dolls and predicted they would eventually advance to torturing small, helpless girls. What? John Douglas, the FBI profiler, said this? Huh. So he was hired in early 97. So he mentioned this in the book Mindhunter. Okay, so I guess that... So, supposedly, this actual book was reported that it was on a table in the Ramsey bedroom. This actual book. So this book was published in 1995. So I guess the next theory, people who think the Ramseys are responsible, do they think the Ramseys, who supposedly the book was in the home, but it wasn't listed in police logs, another big question mark, but apparently those logs are inconsistent anyway, did the Ramseys hire somebody? But here's the weird thing, though. Why would the Ramseys specifically tie the dolls with Japanese bondage, which was the same type that McElroy described and detailed on his website? This is weird. This is very weird. But I'm sure some people would theorize the Ramseys, but why would the Ramseys still be planning it 2 years later? 2-3 years later. But they apparently hired the actual profiler. The Prophet's internet site featured strange graphics, a variety of different kinds of hearts. Some hearts had spikes coming out of them. I recalled that when Jonbenet's body was found, a small shape like a red heart had been drawn on her left hand. So I decided to knock on the Prophet's apartment door in order to discuss these issues. A student told me the previous tenant moved to San Fran. Today, the Prophet lives and works in Denver and remains among the ranks of the city's 140 possible suspects. So, on January 22nd, the Ramsey website published these photos. And why did they wait so long to publish them as well? So they published these photos. So you could see these are clearly two different types, at minimum two different types of dolls. So this was RamseyFamily.com. So these, and the description on the website read, these two dolls were placed on the Ramsey's Boulder property in '97. Note the precise recreations of bondage that are reflected in these dolls. Information wanted if you know anyone that has expressed interest or knowledge in bondage related to young children who may have lived in the Boulder area in December '96. So some people were discussing here, so this is another Jameson post. Let me put this on the screen. Because Jonbenet was supposedly not bound like this, but what if she was and then unbound? So this is very, very creepy website here. Or description of McElroy's website on what was going on here. Here's the other thing, like, what if Jameson has information she couldn't share, and somehow she knows McElroy is guilty, theoretically? Would she want to point things, like, would she leave a doll with the same type of bondage, even though McElroy didn't leave it, if she somehow knows McElroy is guilty? Or believes him to be, even if he's not. So, yeah, we didn't really discuss that possibility, but let's look at this other post here, originally on Web Sleuths. So, posted October 16, 2003, murder by Garrett. The cord on the hands could have been part of a bondage plan, but it seems incomplete. As I remember it, Mike McElroy had a huge bondage site up, and there were images where the hands were tied like that and joined to other cords. The victim would actually strangle themselves if they struggled. How crazy is that? So Mike McElroy had some kind of bondage on his website where if you struggle, you end up choking yourself and dying. I mean, who would even concoct such a I mean, wow. That's just weird. Like, who would even think of that? McElroy, if you don't remember, is the Boulder, Denver artist who made a Barbie mobile, naked Barbies with wings that hung in Dot's Diner in Boulder. He is also the man with a website that outlined his heavy drug use around that time. Wrote about his toilet duties and outcome, wrote about his family problems and how the Christmas tree threatened to grab him if he went for a gift. McElroy was investigated by the BPD to some degree. We know he wrote emails to people talking about how they took his boots and stun gun, actually took him shopping and replaced what they took. His bondage site went down long ago. Too bad. I think many would have had like an opportunity to see it, to ask him about it. I definitely don't want to see it. That just sounds weird. Oh wow, there's no way this is real. There is absolutely no way this is real. This might be, this next message, if true, might actually be the absolute most mind-shocking revelation in the case ever. I don't know if I'm properly prefacing this. I mean, this is absolute insanity if it's true. There's just no way. Let me double check this real quick, because there's no way this is true. This can't be true. Wow, I think this might be true. Just give me a second here. This is absolutely insane. What the heck is this? So, this is unbelievable. This is absolutely unbelievable. Alright, so I'm sure everybody in this case is familiar with this weirdo, John Mark Carr, who confessed or whatever, and I postulated the theory that he might have been involved online. If there's a bunch of sickos like ordering videos or whatever, he may have even witnessed the video online, because apparently he had some knowledge he couldn't have had, and there's all these connections to these other weirdos in the Boulder area. But we're about to get into some of the craziest ones. So let's set the stage here, because apparently his own mother tried to kill him. So, I mean, the plot thickens here. I mean, who's still with us here? Is this not the most mind-shocking episode yet? So, this article publishes ABC News 2006, August 21st, 2006. The mother of the suspect in Jonbenet Ramsey's murder tried to kill him when he was only a baby, a family friend told ABC News. John Carr's mother, Patricia Elaine Adcock, made a big round donut of kindling and put him in the middle of it, said George McCreary, 76, who said he has known Carr's father, works for Carr for 40 years. She just boxed the little baby in and tried to light it, McCreary said. So apparently I guess this would cause some severe mental issues, even if he didn't necessarily remember it. John's older brother, Michael, said came running in just before she got the flame to the flammable material, McCreary said. McCreary said that Adcock was later committed to a mental institution and is now deceased. Attempts made by ABC News to reach immediate members of the Carr family were unsuccessful. McCrary said from the time his mother tried to kill him, he's been out and out paranoid that someone's going to try and kill him or take advantage of him. McCrary said he needs a psychiatrist worse than anyone I've ever seen in my life. McCrary said he doesn't know whether or not Carr killed Ramsey, as Carr has reportedly confessed, but he believes Carr is a pedophile haunted by a possessive need to own the girls and the women he fixates on. McCrary said he met Wexford Carr in 65 when both men were beginning careers in the construction industry. The son of a deacon from Hamilton, Alabama, the elder Carr moved to Atlanta. Wait, Atlanta, of all places, where the other Ramsey home is? What? After World War II, began a construction and real estate business and was very active in his church, McCrary said. So, I mean, the amount of connections here, that this is, oh man. Yeah, and keep in mind, there's tens of thousands of cities and towns in the U.S. So we're talking about Boulder, Atlanta here. Like, Boulder and Atlanta, the connections here are absolutely insane. Some people do believe Carr knew the family prior, somehow. That's not even the Mindshock, by the way. So, everybody in the chat, that's not the this is not the Mindshock. I just had to set the stage there for the actual Mindshock, which I'm about to drop right now in a second. Hold on. Oh, man. So, look, okay, so here's what we have. So here's the actual Mindshock. So this is another Jameson email here, or post rather. So I found this article this morning. Patricia Adcock was Carr's mother. So the forward of the note from Mike McElroy came from a screen name B.S. Adcock. It had CCs to Brian Adcock and to Samuel Adcock. It would be interesting to see if any of these names surface. So the email that forwarded the original McElroy email came from B.S. Adcock. So it doesn't say that here, but this is the original email that's talking about McElroy in 1998. So Carr's mother would still be alive. So if this turned out to be John Mark Carr's mother forwarding the McElroy email, does that mean McElroy is somehow connected to the Adcocks? Or is that just that common of a name? Is everybody still with me? I can't. Okay, the amount of coincidences here. I don't know if I can handle this. I mean, I know I've covered the Maura Murray case for almost 100 episodes, but this is a bit much. This is a bit much. John Mark Carr, is John Mark Carr's mother and or family connected to McElroy? If they are, does that give credence to the theory that there's just a ring of these people on a dark web and they actually witnessed the murder, possibly even paid for and ordered it? And that's why John Mark Carr confessed. That was one of my theories. I'm not claiming it's true or untrue. But why did John Mark Carr confess? Because he somehow felt he contributed? Maybe not directly, but he was on the dark web watching this, and there's like a ring of people who do this, and they know each other? How crazy would it be if John Mark Carr and John Mark Carr's family somehow knew the Ramseys from Atlanta? Is it coincidental he's just on the dark web and he stumbles upon her and this crime being live streamed, or just a video after the fact? I need to think for a second because I did not get this far. I read that last one for the first time just now. I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. This is weird. This is very weird. Now the full story of Carr apparently he went on the lam in 2001 after an arrest for child exploitation materials, and he spent 2001 to 2003 in parts of Asia and Western Europe, 2004 to 2005 in Central America, including Honduras and Costa Rica, and from June 2006 in Thailand. He was arrested in Bangkok August 16, 2006, held for extradition to the U.S. for the murder of 6-year-old beauty queen Jonbenet Ramsey. While in custody, he admitted to reporters his guilt, stating the death to be an accident. So I do wonder, so if these sickos are somehow paying for some kind of abuse material, and they were paying for it regarding Jonbenet Ramsey, she wasn't supposed to die, and she died in some kind of an accident. Were they streaming live at the satanic ritual abuse at the white Christmas party? So Tracy said in an interview that Carr talked about being there, about doing this and doing that, knowing this and knowing that, a whole bunch of things. It wasn't part of what the media was allowed to get before. So apparently he knew details of the crime that were not public. Now, if he wasn't physically in Boulder, how is that possible? Either he saw a video or someone who was there told him about it. Or I guess he's guessing. Or I guess you could argue the cops fed him the information, fed him the info to frame him, but then they didn't end up framing him, so what? That's kind of weird. Welcome the Ant One. Yeah, this is a crazy one. Duck and Felony says, any church connection between them? So there's a lot of church issues. I'm actually going to have to do a separate episode on that. It's going to take me a while if I went through that right now. I don't think so. But there's a whole bunch of other weird stuff with the church that I do need to get to. But this is just weird. How? So if it's not his mother, so his mother's family with that last name is the one leaking the McElroy email with all the Barbie stuff. This is crazy. This is crazy. And it's not like the last name is Smith or Johnson or something. Like, I've actually never known anybody named Alcock, but, yeah, I don't know. Adcock, A-D. So his mother was apparently committed to a mental hospital. Uh-oh, wait a second. I think I just found something. Wait a second. Is he back? He was arrested for battery and obstruction of justice July 7th, 2007 in Sandy Springs, Georgia? Sandy Springs, Georgia is right next to Marietta, Georgia, where the Ramseys lived. So he was actually born in Conyers, Georgia, and resided in Atlanta. Following his 2006 exoneration, he was born in Conyers, Georgia, so he's from Georgia. Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. I don't know what to make of all this. There's still way more mind-shocking things to go over. User FK2 says, look into John Ramsey's college fraternity, the one he was a president of. There's reports of satanic activity. I actually went over his father's connection to North Fox Island, if you haven't checked out that episode. That was, really bizarre. Really bizarre. And I did a whole episode on that. I didn't specifically look at that fraternity, though. Let's continue here, because we're not done with the dolls. There's way more. So the Adcock connection is just crazy. But here's another post. This is a post from 2005, May 3rd, 2005. Or actually, the following post is August 22nd, 2006. Prophet was an interesting character in Boulder. He attended the college, was a local DJ, but I don't know if that's true, or was using another famous DJ's name. And he may have also been a local DJ using the more famous DJ's name. Had a website depicting Barbie in various stages of bondage. He was considered on the net as an expert in the art of Japanese bondage knots. He, in fact, wrote an ultra-violent short story entitled Barbie, the Ultimate F. He was investigated January 98. The BPD took some samples of his writings, his stun gun, shoes, Sharpies, a bit of DNA, and subsequently cleared him. He sent out an email to friends sharing his experiences with BPD, telling of how, after taking his possessions, which he spelled wrong, they took him shopping to replace all items. They did not take his hard drive, which he found amazing. And what would they have found on the hard drive? You can pick up on his site, likely back around in 98, by going to Wayback Machine, typing in wideawake.org. From there, you have to use your imagination, as all the graphics are gone. Click through the X's to get to his mind, body, spirit pages. I don't think I want to. You can gain a little insight as well by doing a Google group search and putting in Prophet at Bigfoot. This will lead you to some postings on the early serial killer sites. I was just amazed that the Adcock's connection popped up today. So the screen name BS Adcock was the one that originally shared the McElroy email, and that is the same last name as John Mark Carr's mother, who tried to kill him. Can you make this stuff up, people? You can't make this stuff up. Alright, let's continue, because there's way more here. There's so much more. So This is... Got two more exhibits here, tying all this together. Okay, so there's... Yeah, this is gonna get... I did not know this before getting into the research on the dolls. Because, I don't know, this kind of got... I guess this got lost in all of the mix of everything. But Jonbenet Ramsey actually had a full-sized Barbie doll. So it is a full, well, it's child-sized Barbie doll. Look at the size of that thing. That thing is huge. That thing is huge. So apparently, this full-size doll was left undressed in front of a window the night of the crime. Now this would again, if this was the night of the crime, once again, this kind of points to McElroy, doesn't it? I also wonder if it wasn't McElroy. Was McElroy part of this group? Part of this group online, like a group of online sickos? And whoever the perpetrators were, if the perps were connected to the ring that I mentioned, because there was a string of strange deaths that we went over in previous episodes, were they members of a ring who operated online on the dark web? So, if they all knew each other, and they saw videos of the crime or whatever, and they knew the true perps, perhaps the true perps... Yeah, I mean, it's so hard. It's so hard to figure this out. It seems like a lot of these people had some kind of inside knowledge they weren't supposed to have. Why are some of them still alive, though? I don't know. Unless, I mean, they're all that crazy. I mean, I guess it might be more suspicious to kill all of them, but... But here's a theory from the Jonbenet subreddit, highly controlled subreddit. All of the subreddits are. So apparently they left there was a full-size Barbie. This particular Barbie was left undressed specifically in front of a window the night of the crime. This particular still is from Christmas '94, so Jonbenet is around 4.5 years old here. So here's where it's going to get really crazy. So it looks, so reportedly, so in this crime, again, I do not ever show crime scene photos with bodies, but crime scene photos without any bodies I will show so you could see what was going on here. But here is apparently this pink gown is for the Barbie, for the full-size Barbie. And here's another image of it. And supposedly this is for the doll. So it is a Barbie nightgown. And supposedly the doll was dressed in it at sometimes or whatever. So it looks like here this is only about 26 inches long and Jonbenet Ramsey's 47 inches tall. So this may have been Jonbenet's nightgown when in previous years. And supposedly from the John Ramsey interviews, he said this doll was last in her bedroom, and also the stool in the bedroom was not in the usual spot. So, all of these connections between Barbies, full-sized Barbies, I mean, that's a lot of weird connections here. So what's weird is that, huh. So Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, some people were actually postulating that he might have done this. I don't know about that. But let's look at his travel schedule. Okay, this is getting really crazy. And then there's actually another detail of the case that has apparently been scrubbed, but hold on a second because we might be able to find it. I mean, this would be a huge one. So this is Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, who supposedly had similar bondage to this. So this is his travel schedule. And here is Colorado. Is on it. Now, I don't know. I haven't seen anything super strong to corroborate this. And I did not do an episode on BTK. I haven't actually researched that particular case heavily. So he visited Colorado for day and overnight trips. So if he had Christmas holiday off, the death of his father's the day after Jonbenet's murder? So Exodus here on Reddit states the doll on the left and bottom. The doll on the left and bottom appears to be tied with the rope connecting the neck and feet. In this position, a person would eventually strangle themselves when they are unable to hold their legs up. My person of interest was an expert with knots as well as breaking into people's homes. He used this precise manner of bondage to kill at least one of his victims in 1977. This is certainly the possibility that some sick person created this, but did not kill Jonbenet. How many individuals, however, would even know how to create this, much less be sick enough to place on the property of a murdered child's family to taunt them? I believe BTK very possibly left the dolls on the property and should be looked at very closely as a suspect if he hasn't already been ruled out in this case. Dennis Radar traveled extensively around Kansas looking for projects. He was an expert at breaking into people's homes, sometimes waiting there until the victim arrived. He was an expert with knots and had very detailed bondage and strangulation fantasies based in an imagined basement dungeon. In his first murders, he acknowledged that 11-year-old Josie Otero was his primary intended target. He took her to the basement of the home after killing other family members and hung her from a pipe. Other posters say, I do agree there is BTK-inspired staging and even in the note. Okay, anyway, let's get off of Radar and look at another curiosity here. Because there was actually... So the CBI did test the dolls in January of '98, but they didn't state which dolls. Okay, here's where it's going to get really, really crazy. Alright, hold on a second. This... So, there was an unconfirmed report that a Barbie doll was actually found next to Jonbenet Ramsey's body. Now, let's examine this unconfirmed report. So, this is no longer on... Or maybe, I don't know if this is Wayback Machine or not. I have a screenshot here. Unconfirmed report. This is from the community forum, Jonbenet Ramsey murder.discussion.community. This was posted January 31st, 2021. A Barbie doll was reported as having been found near Jonbenet's body, uncorroborated information. Every now and then, a poster would come to a forum and give some interesting information. It didn't happen very often, but it did happen. One such poster was Jimmy Wells. He claimed to be a cop from Chicago, and he posted on various forums. He claimed and did appear to have some inside information on the Jonbenet case. He was a rabid RDIer. Ramsey's did it, which would fit as some bolder cops would be prepared to leak confidential information. I have no reason to believe him, and this is one of the two pieces of inside info I have come across. The other was about the flashlight thought not to be the murder weapon, which sounds very accurate to me. Jimmy posted this on Topics, September 10th, 2016. There wasn't a tiara, but there was a Barbie doll wrapped in a white washcloth about 2 feet from her body. Of course, what Jimmy said might be completely untrue, but there is nevertheless a possibility that it might be true. 2 Barbie dolls were tested by the CBI on April 1st, 1998. There were 2 Barbie dolls, items 404 and 405. Tests on them showed they were negative for blood, semen, urine, but trace evidence was collected from them. Whatever the trace evidence was, it was never examined further. The dolls were never tested for touch DNA, which one would think would have been done after Bode had used the technology on the Long Johns in 2008. These dolls, 404 and 405, were likely the two Barbie dolls found wrapped in gray duct tape at the front lawn of the Ramsey property in May and June 97. However, if this is so, what became of the Barbie doll wrapped in a white washcloth 2 feet from Jonbenet's body that Jimmy Wells spoke about? If there was, in fact, a Barbie doll found at the crime scene, maybe the intruders were using the doll as a trigger for Jonbenet, as seems to have happened to Nancy Krebs's niece. Okay, so now we're really gonna get into Mindshock land. So who remembers Nancy Krebs? I went over Krebs, and in a post-Epstein world, pre-Epstein, I mean, coincidence theorists were like running rampant, hallucinating. There couldn't be any kind of like any kind of rings, satanic ritual abuse or trafficking rings or anything of the sort, and completely ignored Nancy Krebs' testimony, calling her crazy, etc. There was also a Barbie nightgown found next to Jonbenet's body that most likely came off a Barbie doll. It looks very much to me as though a Barbie doll was some kind was being used as a device to cause Jonbenet to become traumatized by such a doll. Please read the next post on how Nancy Krebs described her niece's triggered behavior. So Nancy's niece displayed an extreme form of terror when she inadvertently came across an image of a Barbie doll on a shopping trip. This is a clear sign that Barbie dolls had been used to instill fear in her. Fear induced by some means such that when she was presented with a Barbie doll, she would become so fearful that she became completely submissive to those in control of her. Barbie dolls used as a trigger in her case. So from her February 2000 interview, leading up to December 26th, you talked about 2 different incidents involving your niece. One in August 98, when you took your niece shopping with 2 other children and another adult, right? What occurred during that shopping trip? Nancy says, there was a sidewalk sale, and my niece was looking through some boxes and saw this binder that had a picture of a Barbie in it, and she started becoming hysterical. So I went to the car with her, and the other person took the other 2 children to the pizza place, and my niece kept talking about her guinea pig. That was somebody took her guinea pig. They killed her guinea pig. Then she started talking about they were going to kill her, they were going to kill me, and she wasn't making any sense. And also when we did leave, my niece kept yelling things, and she kept trying to open up the back door to try to jump out of my car. That's creepy. So how long has this been going on, and how many cases are Barbie dolls used as a trigger? Jeff U1P says the police should have compared the knots from the website and the knots on the doll. Okay, we're not done yet, though. The mind shocks just keep on coming here. So here's another reply here. March 10th, 2023, John Anderson, author of Lou and Jonbenet. Anderson had written his book that a Barbie doll had been found in a suitcase. And an AMA, a Redditor, questioned him as whether this was accurate or not, as it conflicted with other official reports. So this is this is Anderson in his book here. And he states here, Anderson's reply was that he had been incorrect and there was no Barbie doll in the suitcase. Nevertheless, he said there was a Barbie doll and clothing associated with the case. Quote, the Barbie doll was not in the suitcase, but the Barbie dolls and clothing are of importance to the case. I wonder what compelled him to say that. Was it simply the pink Barbie nightgown found near the body? Curious. Alright, let's go to our final exhibit here, which is juror13lw.com, a post from December 18th, 2018. The partially wrapped presents and the prevarication of the pink nightgown. John Ramsey stated, it's a clue to Barbara Waters, March 2000. That's interesting. Like, in order to make sense of the case, because if John Ramsey was responsible for some kind of satanic ritual abuse, but he wasn't responsible for the death, and the death truly was accidental, would it explain both his and Patsy's behavior? But they also had inconsistencies with each other. So let me go through this post here. For far too long, Jonbenet's pink Barbie nightgown that was found next to the victim spattered with her blood has been known as an anomaly of sorts, a paradox. It has been one of the most ignored pieces of evidence in any theory involving the still unresolved death of Jonbenet Ramsey. We have studied the nightgown in search of not only the physical evidence, but also the circumstantial. We have looked at the statements, interviews, and depositions over the years to discern what the gown could tell us, if anything. In our first interview with investigators, Patsy Ramsey said, quote, I am not quite sure this is hers, end quote, in the hopes her dismissal of the gown would deem it insignificant. John's revulsion of it had a different intent altogether. Quote, John Ramsey to Lou Smith in 1998, it looks like it's a shinier material than I remember. That looks more like what I kind of remember was on the Barbie doll itself. God, I can only imagine it. That was something very perverted. End quote. Given what we believe that the Ramseys were equal in their misdirection, the nightgown has been stranded on a moldy wine cellar island with other misfit toys for over 2 decades. Partially open gift boxes from F.A.O. Schwartz, a Batmobile bicycle with only one working wheel, a fancy set of unwrapped Legos with no wrapping paper or card for its new owner, and a pink Barbie nightgown all by its lonesome now without a princess to love it. It's clinging to Jonbenet's body on the cold cellar floor like a soldier's service dog at his casket. And here's an image of these, all these items here. The truth is, each item in the cellar is significant, some more so than others. We'll show you precisely why we believe the Ramseys, in an attempt to evade culpability, were left with no choice but to mislead everyone not only about the gown, but also the swanky gifts found in the cellar room. Patsy, Pam, and Priscilla. Nedra Powell's early declaration to investigators that the pink Barbie nightgown was Jonbenet's favorite clearly put a crimp in John and Patsy's narrative. If the nightgown were just a set of everyday pajamas and nothing more, then it would have been easy for them to say, yeah, Jonbenet owned the nightgown and we're not sure why it's there. But a young child's favorite possession that she dragged around with her everywhere she went, well, that's an entirely different story with different implications, and Patsy and John had to deal with that. Don't let Patsy fool you. We believe her indifference to the gown was all an act to make you think it wasn't relevant. However, her bitterly defensive stance tells another story. There's no better illustration of that than in this exchange. Haney asks, when would she have worn that last, do you know? Patsy says, well, she didn't wear it that night because she had the long underwear pants and her little white shirt. Do you see it? Patsy doesn't answer Haney's question. She pauses mid-sentence to carefully consider how she wants to address it. Her biggest goal is hammering down the point that Jonbenet did not wear the nightgown on Christmas night. Her emphasis on it draws an enormous red flag. If Jonbenet did wear the nightgown, then the entire Ramsey story falls apart. When Patsy's sister Pam spoke publicly about the gown in '99, she had confirmed what Nedra said. Jonbenet had an affinity for the gown. Quote, it is my information that this gown was found in a closet, and yes, Jonbenet, was found of it because it had a Barbie picture on the front, which looked like her. My mother purchased it here in Georgia at a local Kmart. I was with her. So here you have Patsy's sister, Pam, confirming that her mother bought it. She was with her mother when she bought this particular nightgown, and it was her favorite. The detail about the gown being purchased at Kmart is something that intrigued us. We wanted to see if we could verify that. We also wanted to analyze why Pam would say this. And also, is it possible there was more than one Barbie nightgown? I mean, kids that really like something, a lot of times they have more than one, especially if the family is pretty well off. So is it possible there's more than one? We also wanted to analyze why Pam would say this in 1999, quote, I am aware of one woman who hated the nightgown, was terribly jealous of Patsy's life, and hated Jonbenet's success. Go figure. The police have been told of this and say it is on no concern. Yeah, right. End quote. The jealous woman Pam is referring to is Priscilla, Fleet White's wife. And the Whites are who Nancy Krebs implicated. And Fleet White, obviously, so this is Priscilla White, and Fleet White, obviously, a major figure in this case. I went over the whites many times. Lot of questions there. A lot of questions. So juror 13 is claiming here that that Pam was referring to Priscilla. Pam had her own habit of misdirection, can you say Santa Bear? But it wasn't just simple misleading on her behalf. She was calculating in her attempt to connect the whites to the crime. Interesting that she uses the nightgown, this supposed insignificant evidence, to try and achieve that goal. So, Linda Hoffman Pugh, and again, you got Powell and Pugh very close. And if you haven't checked out the episode, so this is the housekeeper. If you haven't checked out the episode of the Ring, check that out on how apparently there was a lot of links between all these people. But Linda Hoffman Pugh stated, quote, Patsy knows how much Jonbenet loved that nightie. I did the washing 3 times a week, and the Barbie nightie was always there, end quote. So that's from the housekeeper. Interesting. No matter the pervasiveness of the leaks in this case, some crime scene photos have gone unleaked. They've been locked away. Like the 2008 DNA testing of the nightgown and other clothing Jonbenet was wearing, courtesy of Mary Lacey. If we couldn't get our hands on the crime scene photos of the nightgown, we agreed we were going to hunt this thing down by other means. It became imperative for us to see the gown in its entirety. And here's actually a better image of it. So you can see Barbie's face a little bit more here. So we set out on a nearly year-long search, becoming Barbie experts along the way, using the photo from the 2016 Daily Camera article as reference. Trust us when we tell you it's been a maddening, painstaking process to find and verify the gown. With that said, we were able to hunt it down, pin the actual nightgown design of the pink Barbie nightgown found next to Jonbenet's body. At first glance, it doesn't look like the bubblegum pink glared out, half-tilted picture shown in the Daily Camera. However, for the first time, we are sharing exactly what Jonbenet's pink nightgown did look like and what we believe Jonbenet was wearing the night of her death. So here's a comparison of the two, and yeah, it looks like Jonbenet's might have been washed into oblivion because it looks extremely worn compared to the new one here, but while our research as of yet has not revealed exactly who bought the nightgown for Jonbenet, we can tell you this is fact. The nightgown was made exclusively for Macy's Bloomingdale's and sold in their stores in November 95. We also have it from an internal source at Kmart that this is not a Kmart sold gown. This wasn't a gown made for a life-sized Barbie doll. We looked at upwards of 1,000 vintage gowns from all over the world. Among them, we found many pictures from the 90s of little girls posing proudly in their own Barbie gowns with siblings and friends. Many of them posing for their pictures on Christmas Day. In 95, the FAO Schwartz store in New York City opened a new design 2-level Barbie boutique, and hundreds of other department stores followed suits. Back then, every girl on the planet wanted to own Barbie gear, and Jonbenet was no different. Can you imagine how Jonbenet's eyes must have lit up when she saw the boutique in Fifth Avenue? Patsy, Pam, and Nedra were there with her to witness it. It wasn't just the Kmarts and Walmarts of the world carrying Barbie. The brand crossed over into the luxury market where Patsy loved to shop. I'm gonna I'm going to skip over a couple things here. It says little girl Barbie nightgowns will be sold alongside adult paired. Okay, so... Alright. One of the things that helped us identify her gown was the vintage Barbie logo found on the dress portion of the graphic. It was consistent with the Barbie Collectors campaign. They do some good research here. If you haven't put it together yet, you may be wondering the significance. We have a nightgown that's been purchased at Macy's Bloomingdale's alongside other gifts purchased at the same exact stores just a month prior in a family trip. Take another look behind the half-torn FAA Schwartz gift boxes. What do you see? A Lego's parking garage ramp system that's completely unwrapped, which stands out from other gifts in the room. Why are the Legos unwrapped? We know from Patsy that the Legos were Burke's. And here it is. Here, interesting. From Perfect Murder, Perfect Town, Burke had taken baths in his father's bathroom. Patsy, knew for sure because his Legos were always at the bottom of the tub when she drained the water. Suzanne Savage, the previous Ramsey nanny, said you could make Burke behave by telling him no. She said, but sometimes Jonbenet had to be given a timeout for doing things such as stomping on Burke's Lego creations. John Ramsey from The Other Side of Suffering stated, Burke plays downstairs in the living room by the Christmas tree. He's trying to assemble a mechanical robot made of Legos he got for Christmas, so I sit down on the floor to help him put together, but it's way too complicated for tonight. Burke Ramsey on Dr. Phil 2016, yeah, I had some toy I wanted to put together. I remember being downstairs after everyone was kind of in bed and wanting to get this thing out. That's actually kind of interesting for the timeline, right? So Burke sneaked down there to get an early start on the Legos. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of crazy, right? Because did Burke actually really see something? These items in the cellar were gifts from a special trip purchased for special people, wrapped in special gift wrap within weeks of Jonbenet's death on Christmas. So many of these prized and pristine specialized packages surrounding Jonbenet's body. The mostly white adorned with rocking horses gift wrap is instantly recognizable as being from FAO Schwartz. It's coveted by kids just like Tiffany's blue boxes are by adults. Who's most drawn to gifts like a magnet to metal on Christmas? Who would, as a kid, use a flashlight after the lights were out and everyone else is in bed to become a spy kid sneaking, peeking, and peeling at wrapped Christmas presents inside their home? It also deserves stating again, there's no way the Ramseys used that moldy, decrepit cellar to store any of their valuables. No, these valuables got there a different way. John Ramsey in 98 stated, I don't know why that would be there. I mean, that room is usually full of Christmas stuff. It's a nasty room. Just you didn't go in there. Linda Wilcox, the former Ramsey babysitter, talked about Jonbenet in August 95, back in what happened in August 95. Jonbenet was in the TV room sitting at a small table in her nightgown. In these numerous stories shared about Jonbenet, it's clear she primarily wore nightgowns to bed. You see it in the photos and videos of Christmases past. On the random occasions she didn't, she wore something that was girly and pink. Perhaps not so ironically, in the measly 3 photos of Christmas that the Ramseys reportedly took on Christmas Day 96, Jonbenet is wearing a long john set, but it's pink and has lace details at the shoulder. They're pajamas for a girl. That's why it's so hard to rectify the clothing she was found in. She was in the same shirt she wore out to a party that night, pants that were obviously designed for a boy, underwear that was 6 sizes too big. It's a nonsense scene. While we assumed for years, after seeing a picture of them, that the long john pants were boys, we've now received confirmation that they were. Why is Jonbenet wearing her brother's long johns? It's our belief Jonbenet was wearing her nightgown on Christmas night when the attack occurred. If this is true, that means the long johns, the way too big bloomies, were nothing but staging. If they were staging and Jonbenet was redressed, who was the most likely in the family to choose this nonsensical outfit for redressing? When the DNA test came back, it was confirmed the blood belonged solely to Jonbenet. However, it was later revealed in subsequent tDNA testing that Burke and Patsy's DNA was identified on the shoulders and hem of the nightgown. I mean, that's really not crazy, though. I mean, their DNA is all over all the clothes and everything in the house. Some people are, in the comments here, some people are actually stating the theory that Jonbenet Ramsey was actually a male. And everything was all an act with all like the celebrity gender inversion and all that crazy stuff. I'm not going to get into those theories. So there you have it. A lot of issues. So did Burke stumble upon something? I don't know. So many unanswered questions regarding the Barbies. And there's actually one more thing to go over here. And that is the American Girl doll. So not a Barbie, but another doll. And this doll was found as well. And you could see it here from the actual scene. There it is. Kind of unconfirmed reports say that there was some kind of strangling with the doll. Or that it was, something was done with it, but obviously you can't really tell from these images. But what's curious, so there were 2 of these dolls. Actually, so here's the other one. These are most likely to have been the dolls in these photos here. So a doll collector actually posted this on the Jonbenet subreddit. So Patsy apparently at one point said that the doll looked like Jonbenet Ramsey in a coffin, which is a weird statement. And apparently John Ramsey was sent an American doll he did not order after the murder. So, was that a message? We're going to get into that in a second. Because there's something weird going on with all these Barbies and dolls and everything. I mean, you don't see, like, how many other cases have had this amount of issues with dolls or Barbies? I mean, this is just weird. This is just absolutely weird. So apparently, yeah, the life-size doll was placed undressed in the second floor playroom window. And so Linda Arndt had that in her report. I don't know if there's an image or video of that, though. So that was part of the staging that nobody talks about either. So they had time to stage all of this after the fact? That's kind of weird. But if the Barbie nightgown was on the life-size doll, I mean, what kind of crazy happenings ended up that night to have the scene left as it was? In terms of dolls and toys or whatever, I also found an interesting reference here. So Jonbenet Ramsey got a stuffed cat for Christmas in 1994. Sister Socks, which was named after a cat the family adopted the previous summer in Charlevoix. And apparently the stuffed cat was buried with her. And some people said the fat cat was an additional reference in the ransom letter, but I don't see that. But that was I don't know. So yeah, that's all very weird. So here's the final thing we're going over. Apparently, somebody ordered an American Doll in the name of Jonbenet on January 1st, 1997, and had it delivered to Access Graphics. What does everybody make about that? I mean, this is just really crazy. Duck and Felonies, if you haven't watched the entire series, I talk about Burke all the time. There's too many other variables here outside of Burke. Now, he may have seen something. So, apparently, yeah, somebody ordered an American Girl doll in the name of Jonbenet Ramsey on January 1st, 1997, and had it delivered to Access Graphics. So here is an email regarding the dolls and the tape. I worked for Pleasant Company, owned by Mattel, which sells American Girl dolls from October 98 to January 04. I worked at a call center in Wilmot, Wisconsin. I worked as a variable order processor, which means I worked seasonally. The job was taking credit card phone orders for products and putting them into a computer system. It also involved fielding customer service issues and processing requests to mail the catalog. I read this in Perfect Murder, Perfect Town last week of September 99. Quote, the day before, one of Patsy Ramsey's sisters had gone into the house with police permission and taken out an oil painting, several American Girl dolls, a portfolio of Jonbenet's pageant photography. I first thought it was a testament to the wonderful products the dolls were so special to be removed, but when I got to the end of the book, there was a list that mentioned the duct tape had to be from outside the house. I had specific training that if a customer called in and complained about the cord attaching the head, to tell them to duct tape it down. It could also be tucked into the clothing or sewn, but never cut, and for safety reasons, never pinned. The duct tape was presented as proof of an intruder, but the dolls have a verifiable connection to duct tape, and the Ramseys were allowed to remove them from the crime scene. I did simple experiments with duct tape on a doll. If you tape the string down, when you pull the tape off, there remains a visible residue, and it pulls out the white polyester stuffing, which sticks to the tape and makes it not sticky. Somewhere I read a reference to white fibers on the tape, but I have never been able to relocate those one or two lines. It's likely these white fibers were the cause of the Santa Bear fiasco. The duct tape information upset me tremendously. I spoke to my father, an attorney, and he called Hunter's office. He spoke with Leslie Ahom, who was literally days before the grand jury disbanded. I followed up on a phone call with letters to Kane and Owens. From reading about Hunter's office, he couldn't be trusted 100%. So, as supportive backup, I called and wrote Craig Lewis. The grand jury made no decision, but Owens went on TV a few days later talking about new evidence, and Henry Lee had come to town. It was encouraging, but nothing happened. I bought a PC out of frustration in the early 2000s to follow the case online, or early in 2000. I read more about the evidence, and in particular, the mysterious fibers found in the body and clothing. Sometimes they were listed as blue, sometimes they were dark. I looked at a Molly doll in a display case and gathered her feet were thousands of navy blue wool fibers that had shed from her skirt. As with the duct tape, there was an eerie connection. In September 99, a computer search with the Ramsey Boulder address revealed a catalog sent to Jonbenet in 96. A separate search had shown an order for a Samantha doll sent to Patsy in Charlevoix in July 96. Computer searches were done with zip code and last name. In the spring of 2000, I searched and found an order listed as ordered by and shipped to Jonbenet herself on Pearl Street, January 1st, 97. I about fell off my seat. I never saw the paper order, only computer documentation. Mail orders processed in Middleton, Wisconsin for speed and delivery, as that is where they are received. It was also years before, and paper copies are shredded within 2 weeks of processing. A search with Nedra's name and zip showed an order from early September 96. Nedra's computer file had the misspelling of Nedba. I could go on with pages of info about the orders and the computer systems, but it's very technical. As with the duct tape information, I wrote letters to Kane, Owens, and Lewis with information about the dark fibers and the doll sent to Access Graphics. I also emailed the Boulder Police Department and Chuck Green. There was never anything other than computer-generated receipt confirmations. I think those came from Owens. This was spring 2000. I waited years before I posted much online. I held out hope that it would be investigated. A year or two later, Smith came out with info about tan cotton fibers, which only cemented the doll connection, as the torso is tan cotton. This revelation had me again writing and emailing to the same list, and then some. I have shared, written, called, or emailed the story to hundreds of people. Anytime the Ramseys appear on TV, I rebut with my story. Anytime I read of another Ramsey lawsuit, I contact the defendants. I have not been silent, but oddly, I have never been asked a single question either. About using duct tape on the dolls, employees all receive the same exact training. Training sessions are small and unscripted affairs and may have just been an off-the-cuff remark. I asked a few fellow workers, none related any duct tape training. It is not even a huge issue, and of course my employment, I only received a handful of calls about the cord. My father, though, did call after several tries and got the recommendation to use duct tape. I know the person I heard it from was trained by Middleton, not Wilmot, which may account for the discrepancy. Okay, so that's kind of curious. So who ordered the doll in Jonbenet's name to be delivered to John Ramsey at Access Graphics after she was already murdered or dead, if it was an accident? So some people are, the postulation here is that if the dolls had like duct tape cords or whatever, they might have pulled the duct tape off the doll and then put it on Jonbenet. I guess that's what they're getting at. So what does everybody make of all this? I mean, who paid for the doll? Like, how is it paid for? I'm sure there's got to be some kind of paper trail. Other people were asking whether the fibers could potentially be from the Santa Claus, from a Santa Claus wig or something of that nature. But so many unanswered questions here. I mean, this might have been the craziest episode yet. Just the connections with John Mark Carr. I mean, what? I mean, wow. So there you have it. That's kind of what I wanted to go over. You have McElroy and McReynolds, the connections there, if he was indeed the, yeah, and this is crazy. Just the amount of connections between everybody, and yeah, if this was some kind of dark web situation, does that explain a lot of insider knowledge of people who weren't physically at the scene but seem to know too much? South to West says, to quote the great Maxwell Powers, I have nothing to say. Not at this time. But I hope everybody found another edition of Mindshock True Crime interesting and informative. Plenty more to come. You want to help support the podcast? You can do it to our PayPal. Check the link in the description. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Patreon. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.